lost all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. In my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me, controlling me. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are here and underway, but I was just watching. It was like there was nobody here with me for a long time, and then Ken finally showed up. I was like, yeah, I'm not alone. Just off to a slow start, I guess. I don't know what was going on or if it was really laggy for you guys or what, but it got me a little bit nervous. I thought I thought I offended a bunch of you for some, I don't know how, but I haven't seen that before. It's like, wow, there's nobody here. What's going on? So, thank you guys for being here, and I hope you're having a great Thursday night, and I hope you're ready because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live and underway here. I don't know what's going on. Oh, an error occurred. What's going on? Yikes. I'm not sure. Let me see what we can do. Yeah, the stream is the stream on my page is showing dead, but let me refresh it. Maybe it's just the web page. I don't know. A little bit nervous here. Oh, there I am. Yeah, okay. Whew. Oh, man. I guess it's going to be one of those nights. We haven't had one of those for a while, so I'm a bit out of practice, but whew, I guess we're okay. All right, so if you're having trouble with the stream, refresh your page. It looks good now, I guess. Hopefully it will continue to look good, but certainly technical errors are my least favorite kind, but it seems to be working now, so hopefully that'll continue, but I'm going to pop out this chat so I can get it. Minimize this really big bright window, and we will get going here. Sorry about that lethargic start, but you know, when I see that the stream is having troubles right off the bat, it's like doop. So it's kind of the nature of the business, though, right? So you know, everything we do, you know, for the Paranormal Portal, of course, is dependent upon an internet connection, and you know, that just have to go sideways and suddenly there is no show. So hopefully we'll be stable now. Everything looks good after I refreshed. Everything's green and showing strong signals. So I think we're ready to proceed. But again, it's Thursday night. We're almost to the weekend, and of course, that'll be the 2-hour shows and the call-in boards on Saturday or Friday and Saturday. So I hope that I think that's always my funnest shows is when you guys call in and you take part in the conversations and you share your encounters, share your ideas, share your thoughts. I think we always learn better together, and you guys are an integral part of what we're doing here on the portal. And I really appreciate it, along with suggestions that I'm getting from you guys. Really cool. Haxer just sent me in a suggestion for a segment idea, and I think it's a good idea. At first, I was like, I don't know. But as I'm tossing it around, I'm thinking, that's really cool. But the neat thing for me is that's how invested you guys are, is that you're thinking about this show and how to make it better. And I'm one person. I have one person's amount of ideas. So there's all of you guys out there. And when you think of things, and of course I can't do every suggestion. I can't do most suggestions, but you get these. If you have an idea of what you'd like to see on the show, definitely let me know. If it may spur some conversation or some thoughts of how to evolve the idea into something we can do if we can't do exactly what you're saying. But again, I'm one person. I'm I've got one brain going on. Sometimes a lot of voices, but but only one brain. So, but thank you, Haxer, for the concept idea. I think it's something we can definitely flesh out and make something happen. I don't know when exactly, but I know the show is always evolving. The portal is always evolving. We're always figuring out exactly what shape it's going to take, because I think it's important to continue to evolve as well, because there's so many shows out there on the paranormal, and there's so many shows out there of people doing a great job. It's not not that I'm saying the portal's the best and everyone else sucks. I think there's a lot of great shows out there. I was just listening to Dark Waters today, and I've been listening to him for years, and it was really cool to sit back and see what he was doing and what was going on and what he is developing for his shows, and it's a lot of fun. So if you haven't checked it out, ladies and gentlemen, and you love paranormal, check out Dark Waters. Well, I mean, if you're here, you must like the paranormal, but check out Dark Waters on YouTube. Just a really neat guy. He does a really fantastic job. I don't know if he does live shows as much or if he's all pre-record. I really don't know. I think there's quite a bit of work goes into every one of his shows, though, and it's really a top-notch production. So it's worth your time. He's got a hell of a long catalog of past shows, so you can literally spend a long time catching up on what he does. And that's the thing. I'm not afraid to promote another channel. I mean, if you love the paranormal, you gotta find it wherever it is. And there's a lot of people out there doing it, and there's unfortunately there's a lot of people doing it poorly, and really not. I mean, they talk about phenomena, but I think the more comprehensive your program is, the stronger it is. And I think Dark Waters does a great job, just like I think Wes Germer does a great job, just, on Sasquatch Chronicles. And there are several others out there. Even Vic Cundiff does a really good job with the Dogman stuff. So a lot of great options out there if you're into the paranormal. And, of course, the Paranormal Portal. I hope we're doing a great job. And, I'm continuing to develop the show. So, what you see is what I got now, but it's not what you're going to get. So anyway, let's get going on some stories here. I've been really busy today. Oh my God. Been up since 4. Couldn't sleep. So I got 4 hours of sleep last night, but I'm doing okay despite that. I'm not feeling extraordinarily groggy or anything. But then again, once that theme music starts for the show, my blood just starts pumping. It's like, yes, this is, and I just love it. It's just great to get on the air and do it. And I'm kind of looking forward to Fridays and Saturdays show this week, because I don't think there's any guests this weekend. And those, honest to God, those are some of my favorite shows, was when we just get together and talk, I love having the guests we've had on. It's just been extraordinary, and it's been an amazing experience for me, being a lifelong fan of the paranormal and student of the paranormal. I just think it's really cool to have these people on these people that I've listened to for years are suddenly on the show, and it's just like, wow, like Bear and Linda Godfrey and so many others, even Duke. Duke has been an amazing part of my education in the world of the Sasquatch, and having him on was just brilliant, and that was fantastic. And I have Cindy Goodbrake to thank for that, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. She made that connection, and it was just fantastic to get a chance to talk to him both on the air and off the air and form a friendship. So a lot of great people in this field that really care about what we're doing in the world of the paranormal. So, all right, let's get started here. I want to see who's in here tonight. I just got to go through, and I don't know how many have wandered in yet, but Annette is here, Annette Critchfield. Diana Daniels, good to see you. Orcutt, rather. Diana Daniels, Orcutt. Haxer's in here. Lady Death. Lewis, MCAT, Nick Bravo. Hey, Nick. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate it. Ken is in here, and Zero Mind is in here. Great to see you guys. Thank you so much for coming in. And it looks like there's more of you than just that, but those are the active chatters, as far as I can tell. Yeah, there's more that are watching. So thank you to all of you that I couldn't name because I don't know you're there or who you are, but I really appreciate you being a part of the Paranormal Portal experience. And I'll quit gum running and get to the meat of the dinner tonight. That's enough salad. It's time for the main entree. So the first story I'm going to bring you tonight is coming from the state of Wisconsin, and let's see. It says, I was at my friend's house, and he lives right next to a cemetery, and we thought it'd be a good idea to look at the graves. On the way to the graveyard, Rachel, my friend, all of a sudden stopped and pointed at a grave. And I followed her gaze and saw an old lady bending over a grave, and I said, so what is it? What is just an old lady? And Rachel told me, it's not her in general, but to look at her feet. Even though I was suspicious, I looked over at the lady's feet, and I got a chill going through my bones because the lady wasn't standing. She was floating. My friend grabbed my hand and looked back at the lady, and I looked at the lady again, and I saw her slowly disappearing. My mouth almost dropped, and I almost screamed when I saw her face. The whole body was regular, but when you saw her face, anybody would have screamed. There were scars and burns on her face, and one eye was closed, and she had a gap-toothed smile, and I felt like my feet were nailed to the ground, and the look on Rachel's face told me she felt exactly the same way. As the old lady drew closer, my back straightened. She didn't even go around us, but instead walked right through me. I was so freaked out by then that I grabbed Rachel's hand and just started running. By the time we got out of there, we were absolutely breathless. And even though we were tired, my friend and I ran as fast as we could, and when we got to her house, we told her mom what had happened. Of course, she didn't believe us and told us to go to bed. I couldn't sleep because whenever I tried closing my eyes, I saw that face. And by the time I did fall asleep, it was already dawn. It is 4 years later, and we still hate being around that cemetery. Now, I think the lady may have been maybe fake, but whenever... What do you mean I think the lady may be fake? Did you see it or not? But whenever I go by that cemetery, I still get a chill. The psychologist I have been seeing says it was a figure of my imagination. And I thought that too until I saw her again in my room. Now I can never pass a cemetery without being scared, and I'm weary of old ladies. I can barely look at my grandma, and she thinks I'm weird. Now I'm trying to forget it, but it just doesn't work. I don't think I will ever look at my grandma the same way again. Well, that's not really fair. That's not fair at all. Now, I don't know what she means with that. I know that old lady was fake. It's like, if you saw an apparition floating, I mean, it was an apparition, and it went through you. I don't know what more substantial proof you'd need, but I'd be a believer. I mean, I already am, but you know what I'm saying. Even if I was coming at it from a skeptical place, if something floated up to me and then just phased right through me, okay, I'm convinced. I don't know. Some people just need desperately to hold on to that paradigm. They need that security of their 3 dimensions and the 4 walls and the ceiling and a manicured yard. And once reality takes a spin out of there, they just can't cope. They can't adjust. They can't adapt to that new possibility. So no matter how ridiculous, they will cling to their paradigm. So, all right. Let's see what's next. The next one is coming out of Montana. It was about 4 years ago or so, and I went to one of my friend's house in Lewiston, Montana. They had just moved 2 weeks prior to my visit, and this was really a big house, 3 floors, and it sat atop a really steep hill, and it gave you the chills whenever you looked at it from the outside. And the year before the winter, a child was killed in the alleyway just behind the house while sledding. Oh, that's horrible. I was 15 at the time of the incident, and our parents decided that they would go out that night. They left at around 8 p.m. and left my friend, his brother, and me alone in the house. And we were all upstairs watching television, and my friend had bought a new poster earlier that day for his wall. I knew what was exactly on that poster because I had the exact same one in my room. So I watched him hang it up, and we sat back down in front of the TV, and 5 minutes later, we turned back to the poster, and to our horror, a face about the size of a small plate had been drawn on the poster with black ink. We all ran up to the poster to examine it, and his little brother actually touched it and said it was still wet. And that's when we realized that it was running out of the eyes of the face and down the wall, and then discovered the ink was soaking out through the wall, and we ran out of the house immediately. And while we were leaving, the TV began to flip through the channels, and we never went back in until our parents arrived. They moved out 1 month later. After this happened, we discovered on the other side of that wall was his little brother's closet. And inside the closet, there's a crawl space, which all over the sides appeared to be scratch marks from fingernails. I know this is something because I really don't get scared often, and every time I tell this story or even type it out like I am right now, my eyes begin to tear up, and that only happens when I'm severely freaked out. Yeah, that's creepy. Again, I got to keep repeating this because, as fantastic as some of these stories sound, I can't vouch for their authenticity or their accuracy or their being even grounded in fact. But I find these things for you guys, and at the very least, they're good discussion points. Do I believe this one? Well, it's possible. I don't know. I mean, anything is possible, and I really firmly believe that. But is this one? I don't know. It's a little different. Okay, so the next one is coming out of North Carolina. And it says, I've always really been fascinated with ghosts and all of the supernatural, so for my high school graduation gift, my grandmother arranged for the 2 of us to stay at a supposedly haunted bed and breakfast just outside of Asherville, North Carolina. The bed and breakfast was in a beautifully, completely renovated Victorian house that had been owned by a doctor when it was first built. The owners actually showed us some of the bloodstains on the floor in one small room in the back of the house, and they told us this had been the doctor's operating room, and that they'd tried everything to get the stains out but hadn't had any luck. Now, I asked them if they had any ghostly experiences recently, and they said no. The next morning, my grandma and I went down to breakfast, and one of the owners greeted us with, "You must have woken them up." And when he came in to start the breakfast, he had heard someone come down the stairs and say, "Hello." But when he turned around, there was absolutely no one there. Late that night, I was lying in my bed, almost asleep, when I heard someone laughing in the hallway. I didn't think anything about it until I remembered that grandmother and I were the only ones staying downstairs that night. And that was the only, and there was only one other couple staying upstairs, and they'd gone out for the night hours ago. I knew it wasn't the owners because they lived in a little house out back of the inn, and I would have heard them coming in. I almost wet the bed when I realized that nothing human, at least not living human, was in that hallway. But the more I listened to it, the more I decided it was just friendly, mischievous laughter, and not really anything evil. And eventually it stopped, and I did eventually fall asleep. The next morning was our last day there, and my grandmother got up early and took a shower while I was still in the bed. And she was adjusting the water when she felt someone snap a towel across her back. Not hard, but playfully. Of course, she thought it was me and came out of the bathroom to yell at me, but I was still asleep. All in all, it was an interesting experience, but not really a frightening experience. And I think that the spirit or spirits there are friendly. I've met a few ghosts before and since, but so far, not any malevolent ones, and I hope it stays that way. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because an angry ghost is just a horrible experience for everybody. All right, the next one. If I can get this to close. There we go. The next one is really short, but this comes out of Texas, which is really funny because everything in Texas is supposed to be huge. Sorry, I couldn't resist. That's the low-hanging comedy fruit. I can't help it, ladies and gentlemen. And I got the microphone, so you get to deal with it. So this one is, when I was little, my mom would tell us stories about a little girl who died of a ship crash. We would get scared because that girl lives in my house. Sometimes you could see a shadow in the mirror in the hallway, and she said her name was Elizabeth, and she said she was on a ship to the gold rush. She also at the time wrote something that said, "Visit me." She would freak me out, and one time she played with a pillow and hit me in the head. My mom was scared, so she called a priest, and once he got there, he said a lot of weird things, and I could hear Elizabeth screaming. I cried because she was my best friend, but my mom said, "She'll be happy now." But I still see her in my dreams, and she came back and said, "Jesus is proud of me." I had a cheerful expression on my face, and I asked her, "Will you tell my dad I love him because he died?" And she said, "Okay." We hugged, and I cried tears of joy. Well, it's possible. And I imagine it was a dream encounter. And I've experienced that, as I've shared with you guys before. I've had these dream encounters where, they're, and the funny thing is that I literally never remember my dreams. Not never, but rarely, very rarely. It takes a pretty profound dream for me to remember it. But after my father died last year, I met him in a dream. And it was really, really great and healing, and it was a wonderful experience. After my cousin, who was more like an aunt to me, she was my mom's cousin, so mine by default, but she was quite a bit older. After she passed, I met her. And after my grandmother passed, and she and I were very close, I met her. And all three of those dreams were so profound and so real and so lucid and really so incredible. I mean, it was really, really amazing experiences all three times. Now, I wish that I could hear them loud and clear when I was awake, but so far I haven't figured that part out. But at least they come and see me in my dreams and let me know everything's okay. So that's really a wonderful experience. All right, this next one is coming out of Missouri. All right, so this one is when I was about 12, maybe 13, I was asleep in my room, and my mom came to get me up for school, and it was winter, so it was still pitch black outside and dark in my room, but the hallway light was always on, and my mom opened my door about a foot and told me, "Hey, time to wake up." But in those light conditions, she just looked like a black shadow, so I sat up and said, "Okay." And she moved away from the doorway, leaving it open, and behind her was the shadowed outline of a little boy. And at the time, I had a nephew about that height and size, so I figured he was at our house for some reason. I laid back down, and a few minutes later I went to get up, and the little boy shadow was gone. So I figured he had gone downstairs, and I got up and went downstairs, and it was just my mom and I. And I asked her why my nephew was here, and she looked at me funny and said, "Why would he be here?" And I said, "You mean he isn't here?" And she said, "Yeah, he's not here. It was just her." And I didn't tell my mom what happened because she wouldn't have believed me, and I never saw the little boy again. But our house is haunted, so I wasn't too worried about the little boy. Lots of things happen at our house, and mainly having to do with the upstairs and our stairway. The house is about 100 years old, and so I think maybe something happened in the stairway. Directly under the upstairs stairway is our downstairs stairway, which leads to the basement. And for months, I had a reoccurring dream about being chased by something and hiding under the basement stairs. And when I would get under the stairs, I would wake up, and my friend thought maybe that my dream was trying to tell me something, and there was something under the stairs. And I haven't gone under them since she said that because, well, I'm afraid. I'll be afraid if I find something. Anyone ever had a dream like that and found out something? So if this is a child spirit, and if it is indeed a child spirit, which I always have a lot of trepidation about because, of course, a lot of the really terrible hauntings start out with a child spirit and end up with scratches and exorcisms. But if this is, perhaps that dream was a manner of communication to share the story, like, this is who I am, this is what my life was like. So perhaps it was communication, and so she was maybe seeing things through this child's eyes, perhaps. I mean, it's all speculation, right? But that's what we do here on the portal. We speculate all day long. Should have called it the speculation portal. I kind of crack myself up sometimes. All right, and the next one's from Missouri as well. Missouri, sorry. When I was about 14, my friend Kaylee and I were staying at another friend, Kylie's house, out in the country. And there was an old house near that we wanted to explore. And it was nighttime, and my friend Kaylee was too scared to go and stayed at the house. Kylie and I got a flashlight and walked out. It was a long walk to get there. And it was dark, so we couldn't see a lot with our one flashlight. But it was a very run-down house, and there were toys all over the yard. There was a beat-up car and a shed, and we tried the door to the house, and we decided to go inside. And the first room was a kitchen, and to the right of that was a stairway. And the walls of the kitchen had holes in them and reddish-brown splatterings of things on the wall, and we weren't sure what it was, but it was on the refrigerator too, and we opened it up and found some reddish-brown stuff inside. What are you going to think you're going to find in an old refrigerator? Ugh. And we got kind of freaked out and went outside again, and we heard something, so we took off running back to her house. When we got there, we told our friend Kaylee about it and decided to go back the next day while it was light and check out the upstairs. And we decided to go to sleep, and my friends Kylie and Kaylee took the twin bed, and I was lying on the floor. And I've been trying to sleep for a bit, and my back turned to my friends, and suddenly I felt my blanket by my feet moving. I sat up, and I thought it was Kylie's cat, but the cat wasn't even in the room with us. So I asked my friends if they were messing with my blanket, and they said no, and they laughed at me, and I didn't believe them, so I laid on my back this time and kept my eyes open so I could try and catch them. Suddenly, the blanket was yanked down on my foot strongly. My toes were forced to the ground, and I screamed and got up onto the bed with them and turned the lights on. There was no way they did it because I had been watching them. They didn't believe me, so I ended up just sitting on the bed with the lights on and staying up all night while they slept. I was so mad that they didn't believe me. The next day, they went back to the house, and we saw a large circle of stones around the large mound of dirt with a cross sitting on top of it. There was a tire swing that moved back and forth, though there was no wind and even the leaves weren't moving, and We went back to the house to show Kaylee the reddish-brown splatters, but she wasn't convinced of anything, and we were too scared to go upstairs, so we came back outside and stepped off the porch onto what I thought was another broken step. And when I looked down, it was a headstone. Why there was a headstone laying by the porch, I have no idea. When Kaylee saw that, she started to believe. Kylie and I went into the shed, and there were really weird drawings and markings all over the walls that were glow in the dark, and I started getting really scared and started running back to the house, and my friends were right behind me. I'm just wondering if maybe something followed Kylie and I back that first night and was messing with my foot. I know it happened. I wasn't dreaming, and no one else could have done it. I was absolutely terrified, and my friends still don't believe me to this day. Has something ever happened to any of you, and no one believed you? Yeah, that's the thing, especially when you're a kid. I mean, if somebody makes a claim like that, you almost don't want to believe them, or you don't want to give them the benefit of that, because what if they're screwing with you and making you look stupid? So I can appreciate the other kids going, oh, whatever, because nobody wants to be the fool. So, hey, my blanket got jerked on. Did you guys do it? No, ha, 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 ha. But if, what if you said, yes, we did it? Or, no, we didn't do it. Oh, that's really weird, but we believe you. And then, oh, no, I was just kidding. My blanket never got yanked down. You guys are idiots. And, that's what kids are. Kids always jazz on each other like that. And it's like, wow. So I understand that they wouldn't want to admit that they might have believed it. But then again, some people just don't want to believe. And that's okay, too. All right, I'm going to have to open some more because we've been on 32 minutes so far, ladies and gentlemen, but there's more of this fun to come. I'm going to open a couple more here. Not sure how long they are. Ooh, this one's pretty long. You guys just got the bonus round. This one comes out of the state of Virginia. I don't see that one very often. I was a long-haul trucker. Hey, I'm Kat. This one's for you, brother. For many years, and in December of 2004, I had a delivery in Winchester, Virginia, and a second stop in Washington, D.C. And at the first stop, I was delayed and didn't get unloaded until after 2 a.m., and I left Winchester heading east on Highway 7, and around 2:30, I came to the intersection of Highway 8 and Route 601 near Bluemont at a gas station, and I pulled in to check my map of Washington in anticipation of my delivery, and the station was closed at that hour, and there was virtually no traffic going by, and it was cold, moonless night, so while I was sitting there, someone knocked on my door. Absolutely startled me. I jumped up and turned off my interior light so I could see outside and rolled down the window. A man was standing there in an airline flight crew uniform, and he had 4 stripes on his shoulders, epaulets, shoulder epaulets. I'm not familiar with the vernacular. They're for military uniforms, but indicating he was a captain. He was without a jacket on a very cold morning, and he climbed up on the step of my cab, and he smelled like he had bathed in kerosene, and when he got close to my face, I could see that his cap had a TWA insignia on it. "Could you give me a lift?" he asked in a voice that seemed raspy. And I assumed it was from the cold, and I was really taken off guard. It was odd. I was in a dark, rural area on a freezing night, being asked by an airline pilot wearing short sleeves for a ride, and I asked him where he was headed, and he said, "I work for TWA, and I got to get to Dulles to work a flight. Please give me a ride. I'll pay you." He responded, "Well, how about I give you a ride to the next open store where you can call a cab?" I offered. "Okay, all right, thank you, he mumbled. And he said that we could descend. And I don't know what he was talking about, but I didn't want the guy to freeze out there, so "Go around and get in," I instructed. And he climbed down and shuffled around the front of the truck, and when he passed the first light, I was struck by the fact that he seemed to have long sideburns a la Elvis. And when he continued on the right, he totally vanished. I don't mean he faded away. He just ceased to exist. I jumped down and out of the truck and looked all around with a flashlight, even under the truck. He was just disappeared. And as I continued toward Washington, I remembered something odd. TWA had gone out of business over 2 years ago. What was going on, I wondered, totally perplexed and shaken by the experience. And when I got home, I did some online research, and what I found out totally turned my beliefs upside down. I've always thought that ghost stories were hokey and foolish, but with what I learned, I'm no longer sure. Turns out that on December 4th, 1974, a TWA Boeing 727 Flight 514 descended prematurely through a low cloud deck and slammed into a rocky outcropping on Mount Weather, Virginia. The aircraft disintegrated with all 92 people on board killed. The flight had originated in Columbus, Ohio, and was supposed to land at Washington National Airport, and it was diverted to Washington's other airport, Dulles International, because high winds had closed National. And according to the cockpit voice and data recordings, the crew mistakenly believed that all traffic controllers had cleared them to descend to 1,800 feet from their previous altitude of 7,000 feet. This error, combined with strong downdrafts, caused the aircraft to hit the mountain at 1,670 feet above sea level, and at the last second, they broke out of the overcast only to see the rocky and snow-covered mountain coming in their windscreen. The captain's last words to his co-pilot were, "Get some power on," just moments before the recording abruptly ended. The place of impact was less than a mile south of where I encountered whoever or whatever it was that I saw, almost exactly 30 years later. I don't want to definitely say it was a ghost, but the fact remains that there was somebody who appeared to be an airline pilot with a very dated hairstyle, wearing a uniform of a defunct business. I'm no longer a trucker, but this has troubled me for over 2 years, and if anyone would have any insight into this, I'd appreciate your help. Thank you. I'm thinking you met a ghost. I'm thinking that the pilot was still trying to get back. And what a tragic thing. I don't know. But again, this is a situation, ladies and gentlemen. This is what really perplexes me, is this gentleman had this situation. He had this experience. And he's still wondering what it was he saw. It's like, well, why not just admit to yourself that you saw a spirit? It appeared, manifested, talked with you. So it was very intelligent. It was actually, an intelligent kind of experience, and then disappeared. I don't know. I don't know what answer he would be looking for outside of the obvious. That to me is the bigger mystery in this. But a cool story nonetheless. Of course it's tragic whenever things like that happen. But, the fact that I guess, that would definitely be a case for unfinished business or trying to come to terms with the terms of their death. It doesn't surprise me that the pilot would still be earthbound and trying to process this, this experience. I'm not sure why it takes spirits so incredibly long to just go, well, nothing I can do about it. It happened. For us, it just seems like, well, you just got to acknowledge that and move on. But there's something about the death state and whatever is present of the person's consciousness that still stays stuck in that moment. Maybe it's like a regret. Maybe it's a living regret. Maybe it's a living, a living sadness. Maybe it's a piece of the pilot that had to be left behind before he returned to, whatever is divinity. Maybe those parts can't come, and so they stay. They're just kind of removed, and they stay and go through this cycle until they process completely, or whatever. I don't know. It's just a theory that's popped in my head right now. But could that be it? That some of these hauntings of things like this are an actual piece of the soul that couldn't pass into the divine because it wasn't a divine piece. It was in conflict. It's in agony and misery, and so it had to be left. until it can process and move on. Is that possible? I don't know. Very curious, though. Very cool story. The next one is the coming from Idaho. This is in my neck of the woods, ladies and gentlemen. Julia and I and Don and several others are right here in the Idaho wild north. But the story's from 2007, but it sounds like it's from 1982. It says in 1982, I was working carpentry work for a farmer in Elk Point, SD. In Elk Point, South Dakota, I guess, but it's supposed to be Idaho. Elk Point, South Dakota, on a house that had been moved from town to his farm about 6 miles from town. And almost as soon as I got started on it, I noticed things occurring that I couldn't explain. I'd be working in a room and then go get some materials, and the lights would be off when I returned, and the lights would be on in rooms where I hadn't been, and I worked there for several days, and these things always kept going on. On the fourth day, I was working in the kitchen, putting up paneling, and I had a ladder sitting in the middle of the room with a box of panel nails sitting on the paint shelf of the ladder. And suddenly the ladder started sliding across the floor, and it tipped over, spilling the nails all over the floor. I could smell jasmine perfume real strong, and the room had gotten a very cold, and it was a 90-degree day outside. I had not felt the house shaking, nor were there any trucks going by, and I picked up the ladder and got down on my hands and knees to pick up all the nails, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow moving from the bathroom to the bedroom. When I heard the stairs squeak, I got up and went to the stairs, to the upstairs bedrooms, and I couldn't see anyone, so I went to the stairs and looked through the bedrooms, but I couldn't find anyone up there. It's like repeated it. Huh. I mean, he repeated the same sentence. So, okay, I just wanted to reread it, make sure I didn't miss something there. I went back down and finished picking up the nails, and after some minutes later, the farmer came up to see how I was doing, and I told him about all the strange things that had been going on, and he started laughing, and he said, "You just met our ghost." And then he told me the story of the house and why it was moved. He said the house was originally in town, and the old woman that lived in the house had actually killed herself by hanging in the basement. He took me to the basement and showed me the beam that she'd hung herself from and where the neighbors found her, and no one had been able to live in the house since she had passed, and as they could not handle the pranks that she would pull on them. We went back upstairs, and he told me that she had never been violent, just that she liked to turn lights on and off and move things around, and he told me to talk to her, and she'd leave me alone. Then he told me that when they moved the house, they thought the ghost would stay in town, but she didn't, and now he was stuck with her. And as he left, he said that she wouldn't harm me, but she would continue moving things around and turning the lights off and on. And so I continued to work on the house, and a few days later, I finished the kitchen, and I saw her shadow in the bedroom looking towards me, and I said, "I hope you enjoy your new kitchen." And I was there for almost a week after that, and I didn't have any more problems with the lights or anything else. When the job was done, and I had moved on to other work, I talked to the farmer several times, and he told me that the old lady was not bothering the people that were currently living in the house, and he had no explanation as to why. Believe me, this scared the heck out of me, and I hoped I would never have this type of experience again. But I have, and I've written other stories as well. To see the other stories by me, click on my name. So, very interesting. Exactly the right way to handle a situation like that. And ladies and gentlemen, most hauntings are absolutely harmless. They just, oftentimes just want to be acknowledged. There are some that are absolutely dark and terrible, but there's also some that are just benign, and sometimes just to address them and let them know what you're comfortable with, let them know what you're not comfortable with, and welcome them if you can, or ask them to leave if you can't. Most often, like most people don't want problems. They don't want issues. They just want to be left alone. or left to do whatever it is they're doing. And so I think if you address the spirits and you just tell them, hey, this is who I am, and you're welcome to stay, but you have to, please don't do this, 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 and this, And if that's okay with you, then we can live peacefully. And 9 times out of 10, or maybe 45 times out of 50, that'll be the end of it. You may get some activity after that, but that's just an acknowledgement of their presence. But most of them just are, the same as they were in life. They're just past. They're just physically challenged, literally. Sorry, bump. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have enjoyed this journey through the Paranormal Portal, and I hope you've had a wonderful Thursday evening. And I guess that's about it for me tonight, and I'll be back tomorrow night to continue this journey, and hopefully we'll have a great time then. But remember, the call lines will be open tomorrow. Again, please subscribe if you're watching this video and you don't mind. It would sure help us out if you would subscribe. It raises our rankings with YouTube and helps other people see our stuff. And please like the stream, like the video if you would, please. That again helps YouTube to promote it as a recommended video. So the more interactions a video gets, the more that YouTube is going to go, hey, for you people interested in the paranormal, check out this. So please do that. It would make a great difference for us. I'd be very grateful. And I love you all very much. I hope you guys have a great Friday, and hope you'll come back tomorrow night. And if you do, I'll be here waiting for you. And so be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, and have a wonderful day tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow night for the 2-hour show. And remember, the phones are open, so I hope to hear from you guys. But sweet dreams.